Good morning, guys. Hope you're all having a fantastic day wherever you are tuning in from. So I guess for this video, we're just going to be vlogging my weekend because I don't really have anything planned necessarily. My husband and I are celebrating our anniversary this weekend. We have been married for 2 years and together for 7. So our daughter is going to be spending the weekend with her aunt, and we are gonna go do some shopping. We're gonna go meander around, do some dinner. I'm gonna do some canning projects this weekend, and we're gonna be looking at the new house and seeing what kind of progress they've made. I heard that they got the walls poured for the basement, so we're gonna go over there and check it out, see what's going on. And I'm gonna do some overviews of our new property and just kind of hang out for the weekend. So at the moment, we are at my in-laws. I came over here to look at my father-in-law's sunflowers that he has growing over here. My father-in-law has just a tiny little garden in his backyard, and he plants sunflowers every year, and he tries to grow really big pumpkins. He won an award last year for the town's pumpkin growing contest, and he tried to start pumpkins this year, but they did not do very good for him. So he's got his sunflowers that are still trucking along. Some of them have kind of like wilted over. He usually keeps the seeds from them. And then he has just a little tiny tomato plant over here that I gave him as a start this year that's actually producing really well for him. This one is one of the beefsteak hybrid varieties. Flip you guys around so you can see there's just tons and tons and tons of tomatoes on his plant. It has completely overgrown the cage that he put it in. So he put this little string up to keep it up and going, but look at some of those tomatoes in there. I mean, they are just massive. So yeah, I came out here to look and see what his sunflowers were doing. I don't have room at my house in my garden currently to grow sunflowers. I've always wanted to grow them, but I've just never had room. So I just come out and look at his because they're really pretty to look at, and I can't wait to grow my own. So we are gonna get going and get to seeing what they've done at the new house. So I guess just tag along with me for the weekend and enjoy the vlog. I hope you guys are all having a great day. I hope you guys get whatever you are trying to get accomplished this weekend accomplished. Stay motivated and enjoy the video. So I wasn't able to get too much footage because I don't want to disturb the guys that are trying to do their job. So my husband is down in the creek looking for things, and I am just going to take you guys around the property for the moment. So there's a trail that comes down the hill from our house that I'm currently walking on. And then once you get out here, it opens up to this beautiful field down here. So there are just tons and tons and tons of trails and things through all of these woods. And then the cool thing is, over there on the other side of the tree line is the river, which I am super excited about. I love to fish. So I can't wait to have like a little spot down there for me to go to daily and go fish in the river and just, I don't know, I'm so incredibly excited to be down here. Fishing is one of my favorite things in the world. I love to fish. So I'm very excited to be this close to the river and just be able to fish whenever I want to. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, anyway, I wanted to come walk down here, and this is so pretty. It's just like so calming, so relaxing. It looks beautiful. And then I'll flip you around. So over there where that trail, or not the trail, over there where that opens up, that leads up to Austin's grandma and grandpa's house. Sadly, they passed away a couple years ago, but their house is right beside the house that we're building. So if you go through there, you come up through another giant field. and you come up on the backside of their property. So it all wraps around, and then our in-laws live right across the street from us, and they have tons and tons of trails on their property as well. So it's just like a really nice family farm with all kinds of nooks and crannies and things to explore, things to see, things to do. Wow, look at, is that all the clay you were talking about?
Yeah, it's lined with water.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's like all blue. It's very cool being down here. Like I said, there's all kinds of stuff to see, but look at all those roots and, oh wow! I have seen this whenever it was filled with water, but I've never seen it without water. Look at this.
I don't think you've ever seen it.
How cool.
Tiny red rock.
Oh, thank you. Wow. So it's like a little waterfall, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty. Yeah, unfortunately, whenever the creek's filled up, we don't get to come down and explore and like see all the cool things that are in it and around it. But look at that. Isn't that pretty? That was really neat. I'm currently sinking in the mud. But I want to get up on these rock ledges. Oh, there. Now I'm not in the mud. This creek is so big and so pretty. I'm hoping to try and catch a frog because I know my daughter would love if I brought one of them home for her. I used to catch and save frogs for her all the time. She is kind of a frog fanatic, especially the really big ones like we get down here. She would love if I brought one home for her, but no such luck. I only keep finding the itty bitty baby ones so far. My husband's still down there checking things out, and I am walking back up here. There's a bunch of dead leaves all over the place, which is reminding me that come here very soon when the leaves start to fall. Instead of doing like landscape fabric in my garden for the rows, I think what I am going to do is just rake up a bunch of leaves and put them over all of my rows and keep the ground covered that way. I don't know. That seems like a really good plan. We'll see how it goes. And it's going to be way less expensive because I get tons of free leaves and landscape fabric is very expensive. So I think that's going to be my plan of action. We'll see. But for now, that seems like a good idea. I was not prepared to walk through here. I should have worn better clothes. I'm probably covered in ticks. Ticks have been terrible this year, which is one thing that stinks about living out in the country. Tons of heebie-jeebies and creepy crawlies. Okay, so I was waiting in the truck for my husband to get done, and he brought me this. It says Boyd's cap for mason jars, and interesting story. So that crick, his grandma and grandpa used to just, you know, throw stuff in, and she was really big into canning. So this is something that we found in there that I know she probably used back in the day. I was doing some research on this. So this is really old. It says that it was manufactured in like 1869, and it was used for canning back in the day to kind of be a buffer so that the metal band would not be in direct contact with the food. I've never seen something like this. It's completely porcelain. But isn't that neat? I don't know. I just think that is so cool that me and his grandma both share a hobby that we love, and I'm finding things from, you know, her canning back in the day. Isn't that so cool? I don't know. I just think that is so incredibly fascinating. My husband and I decided to come back and look at the property because the workers are gone, and I thought I would give you guys an overview. Austin, what's the total square footage? 2,200. Okay. So the whole house is 2,200 square feet. So this is all of the basement. They got the walls done. Huh? With the finished basement, it's 4,400. Oh, so he said with the basement, it's 4,400. Yeah, it's massive. I told him we're gonna have to have several more kids, or we're gonna have to buy like 10 more dogs to fill this castle up. But so that's the overview of that. And then if you come over here, the garage is going to be over here. It's going to start at about right here and come out this way. And then how many square feet is the garage? 900 square feet for the garage. But it's crazy being out here and seeing walls be poured. So we have been in the works on this for 2 years now. My husband and I have changed our blueprints a million times. We have revamped, redone multiple things on the property, so it really hindered our ability to get started on it when we originally wanted to. So it's just really cool to see it come to life and then begin the process on all of it. So within like a month, they'll start framing.
I'd say 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So within 2 weeks, we'll have framing started and all of that jazz. And then me and Austin are going to be incredibly busy because he's going to be doing a lot of the finished work. I'll be doing all the painting. He'll be doing all the flooring and trim. And what else? And cabinets. We'll do what we can and what we have time for. We both also work full time, so trying to fit all of that into our schedule is a little bit difficult, but we will get done what we can. So, but for now, progress is being made, and that's exciting. Okay, so once my husband and I finished at our property, we decided to travel to eat at our favorite Mexican restaurant. This restaurant is called Tex-Mex, and they have tons of chains in the United States. So if you are in the US and looking for a good restaurant to try, I would highly recommend. The ones I was pointing out was the street tacos that I always get. They also have really good ceviche, which my husband and I both love. Their menus are just huge and just packed with all kinds of goodies and anything and everything you could possibly want. Their drink menu is also very large. They have the best margaritas in town. So we loaded up on the margaritas and queso. I feel like that is a must if you go to the Mexican restaurant. And then this is the salsa that I was talking to you guys that's super pureed that my husband loves, that he's been asking me to recreate. So we're just enjoying our drinks and all of our food. It turned out amazing and was just such a good time. So I was totally going to vlog my husband and I's like shopping trip and all of that for you guys, but we picked the absolute worst weekend. I mean, I know we can't, pick what weekend our anniversary falls on, but it was the weekend before back to school started and the mall was crazy. All the stores were crazy. So it was going to be incredibly hard to film for you guys. So my apologies, but my husband and I did have a really good time. We went shopping, went out to eat, we gambled a little bit. I won $400 at the casino, so that never happens, knock on wood, hoping that continues because I will take it where I can get it. But yeah, we had a really good time spending time together. And then today I'm back home. I'm going to get some projects done. I think we're going to do some hot chili crisp in oil. We're going to make that together because I use that a lot, but I've never canned it myself. Well, actually, I'm going to have to look because I don't know if this is a canning recipe or not. We might just store it in like the mason jars. I don't know if there's a processing time on it. So I will let you know on that. And then I think we are also going to make a super hot pepper jelly together. Now, I've made pepper jellies in the past, but I've never made a super hot batch of it. And I have a ton of hot peppers at the moment, mostly habaneros. So I'm going to have to kind of get creative with them on how to use them because they are extremely hot. And you can't put too many of them in a pepper jelly, but I think I am going to use a couple of them in it, and then I'm just going to keep trying to find ways to use them up because I don't know if I would be able to use them if I like dehydrated them. I think it might be like too hot of a homemade hot pepper flake to use with, so we'll see. I wasn't anticipating my habanero plant to do as good as it did this year, but it has produced a million habaneros. So I'm just trying to find ways to use them up. So we'll do those two recipes together, and then I need to go out to the garden, do some watering, and then just find a couple more things to do around the house and hang out with you guys. So this will be a fun little ending to this video. We'll do some projects together and get some things done. So before my husband and I left town yesterday, I went ahead and grabbed some garlic, and then I grabbed a bunch of onions and peppers. Now, I'm not necessarily going to be following like a specific recipe to this. I'm going to kind of cater it to the ingredients that I have, but I will walk you through exactly how we're going to do this. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the components for this recipe because they do have to dehydrate. So this will probably take a little bit of time. And if the dehydration time takes, a little bit longer and I don't necessarily get to processing this all today, I will definitely make sure that I leave the rest of the video with a kind of walk through how I do it, if it falls it or if it kind of goes into tomorrow. So like I said, what we're going to start with is the garlic. Then we'll get some onions dehydrated. We'll get the chili peppers dehydrated, and kind of just an assortment of anything else that I find that I kind of want to throw into the hot chili crisp mix. So I'm going to go ahead and get peeling this and getting it chopped up and getting it in my dehydrator. And the worst part about working with garlic is that you have to peel it. So that does kind of stink, but we will get it done. I have a little bit of a method that I use to kind of make this a little bit easier. So I just start getting the garlic cloves out of here. Is if I cut the end of this, but I don't cut all the way through it, like I leave, you know, a little bit at the end. I don't cut all the way through the garlic, and then I can just kind of take this piece and the sides of it and just get that whole clove right out of there. And usually it comes right out. So like that. I mean, I've used a bunch of different methods, honestly, you guys, and there's really not one particular method that I've found that's worked the absolute best or is going to be a great time saver. I've used the mats where you kind of shake them around and get the papers off, and I've done a bunch of different things, but this I find works about the best. If you just don't cut through the garlic all the way and you kind of use the end to peel the rest of it, it does go pretty quickly. And I already have dehydrated garlic down in my pantry storage room, but I don't have enough to be able to do what we are needing with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 more of these cloves done and prepped and get them on the dehydrator so that I know I have enough. And I went out and bought a bunch more olive oil, so that's stocked up and ready to go also. Okay, so the trays that come with the dehydrator look like this, and they're very like fine mesh. You could lay something down on trays like this to kind of prevent things from slipping through the cracks, which is what I would do if I was dehydrating something smaller, but the garlic and things are not small, and then the onions I'm not going to cut up really small either. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and leave the garlic and onions and peppers bigger, and then I'm just going to blitz them up in the food processor and do it that way, because I think it would be easier after they're dehydrated. We'll just blitz it all up together, and then that will be our crisp base. So I went ahead and got these garlics up here, and like I said, I do have more downstairs, so I don't have to do like a whole bunch of fresh garlic, but I did want just a little bit extra just in case. So here's this, and then I'm going to get started on cutting up some of the onions, and we'll leave those there, and then I will grab the hot peppers. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting the onions prepped. And like I said, I'm going to leave them pretty decent size. So I went to Bath and Body Works yesterday, and they were having their sale for the 3-wick candles for $13.95. And I picked up 3 of them. And I know fragrances are like terrible for your household, but I cannot help myself whenever Bath and Body Works has that sale. I buy all the candles because they smell so good. I know they're terrible, but it's balance, right? You eat as healthy as you can and do things as good as you can, and then you black out whenever you go into Bath and Body Works on occasion. I call it balance. I think it's okay. Okay, so here's my bowl of peppers. There are tons of different kinds, and I think I'm going to use like a couple of the habaneros and then a bunch of these serranos that are in here. I also have like an itty bitty little green pepper. I'm just going to throw it in. I think chili crisp and oil is pretty versatile. You could probably throw in whatever kind of pepper you wanted, but you definitely want some heat to it. So I'm just going to get going and cutting up some of these and get them on my dehydrator tray. And these trays are really nice. They're very big, so you can really fill up a lot of stuff on one of them. And I do not have gloves. If you are going to be working with incredibly hot peppers, I would highly recommend you wear gloves. I don't have any at this very moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and chop the top of this off and leave it whole. And then, like I said, we'll blitz it in the food processor. That way I don't have to touch the insides of any of these peppers, because if you've never gotten hot pepper juice like in your eye or on your skin accidentally, it's a very humbling experience, and you will remember to wear gloves next time, and I am not chancing it. Especially on the habaneros, because they are incredibly hot. Even just cutting into these, it's like right in your face. And I have a couple of these Santa Fe hot peppers that they didn't ripen, but that's okay. I just have extras, and I'm going to go ahead and toss them in the mix as well. And we will be adding like sugar and spices and things to this as well. So we'll kind of play around with those flavor components. I'm going to go ahead and cut up one more onion because I have room on this tray. So I'm just going to get all of this on here and fill up the rest of the space. And what I like about that new dehydrator that my husband got me is it's not loud at all. I mean, like, you can barely hear that it's running, which is awesome, because my old dehydrator was incredibly loud and I felt like I could never like hear anybody whenever it was running. And especially for filming, it was very, very difficult for me to do. So this one is awesome. It's quadrupled the capacity and it doesn't make any sound. So that's very nice. Okay. So this tray is all done and ready to go in the dehydrator. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on the hot pepper jelly. So for this particular recipe, and I will post it in the description, we need 1.5 cups of red bell peppers. And I went to the store and grabbed yellow, orange, red. And then again, we will be using some of the hot peppers. What we're going to do is we're going to cut up all these peppers, and then we're just going to start placing them in our stock pot. And then once we get all the peppers chopped, we will transfer this to the stove. So, and you do want to dice these up pretty finely for pepper jelly. Don't want to leave them too chunky. But I think pepper jelly is just really good for like holidays and snacks and gifts. This is something that I like to give away. I actually do a lot of canned goods as Christmas gifts, and pepper jelly is always a hit. So everybody really seems to enjoy it whenever I make it. And it's nice to be able to share with my family. So if you're looking, and it looks very festive. It's very colorful. You'll see whenever I get it done and get it processed, it's very colorful, very pretty. So it's a nice holiday gift. It looks like you put a lot of effort into making it, and it's actually very simple and easy. Okay, and as I chop these, I'm just going to place them in my measuring cup so that we can see exactly what we're up to. Okay, we still got a ways to go here, but that's okay. I think 2 red bell peppers will be plenty for 1.5 cups. Once you start dicing them, they actually do go quite a ways. Okay, so that's about perfect for the red. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my stock pot back here. Okay, and now the recipe calls for 1 cup of yellow, and I had to get a new knife. If you saw me struggling, I absolutely 100% was. I really need to get my knives sharpened. Sometimes it's a little bit inconvenient to use this big of a knife, but I'm over it, and it cuts really, really well. So, and make sure you're getting all of the seeds out of these peppers. If you want to leave the seeds in on your hot peppers for extra heat, that's totally fine, but I would recommend getting all of these ones out of your bell peppers so that it's not too seedy. Oh yeah, that's way better. Okay, so we need 1 cup of the yellow. And then this recipe calls for 1 1/4 cup green pepper, but you can substitute the colors. It doesn't really matter as long as you're following the exact ratios. So I have orange over there instead of green, and that's what I'm going to use. Unfortunately, my peppers are all done for the year because if you've been watching, I've been having to take my garden down early to accommodate my new garden at the new property. So I don't have any more peppers to make this with, and I definitely don't have any more green. So I'm just going to use orange, and if you follow the ratios, you can use whatever kind you have. That's going to be about perfect for the yellow. About 1 cup was 1. Yep, perfect. That's going in our stock pot. And it is very important to follow the ratios of the peppers whenever you're making pepper jelly because these peppers have a lot of liquid in them. And if you do more than what the recipe calls for in comparison to the pectin you're using, you could end up with like a very, very runny sauce instead of the pepper jelly itself. So definitely stick to the requirements per recipe to a T. And then we need 1 1/4 cup of the orange. Technically green, but like I said, we're just going to use the orange because that's what I have. Pepper jelly is also something that I never personally try to double the recipe with. Now, you're not supposed to double jams and jellies to begin with. I do, and I've never had a problem with it. Now, I would never try to make like a triple batch or something, but just doubling the recipe, I've never had an issue. However, I have tried to double the pepper jelly one time and it did not set right because these peppers have so much liquid in them. So although I do have more peppers and could make a bigger batch of this, I'm not going to chance it just because hot pepper jelly syrup is not good. And I ended up having to pitch all of those jars. So if you are wanting to make this and you want to make multiple batches, go for it. But I would highly recommend you make one batch at a time. Okay, so we got 1 1/4 cup on this. Last but not least, we need the hot peppers. And I didn't think I was going to have to dice hot peppers. Joke's on me. So wish me luck. Hopefully I don't get this in my eyeballs. I'm going to just try as hard as I can not to touch any of this stuff too terribly much. Or at least not the inside of it. I am going to go ahead and leave the seeds. So I was going to do the habaneros, but I think that might be too spicy. So I'm just going to go ahead and use up some of these serranos. Usually hot pepper jelly calls for jalapenos. And you can use whatever type of hot pepper you want. You just, like I said, you want to make sure you follow the ratios. So this calls for 1/4 cup, which is not very much at all. And the green serranos will give us that green color that the green peppers were supposed to give us. So that'll be good. We'll have a good mix of all of the colors in here. And I'm just going to kind of roughly chop them and try not to touch them. And then I will get them all back together and we'll give them a finer dice. Okay, so that's about all we need. So this is also going to go in this pot. Okay, so the next step is to add in the vinegar and the pectin. Now, this says to use apple cider vinegar. I am just using regular vinegar. As long as it's 5% acidity, you could use whatever vinegar you'd like. I just don't particularly care for apple cider vinegar, so I am not using it. So we have our vinegar in there. Now we need to add 1 1.75 ounce package of pectin and bring this up to a rolling boil. That is how the pectin sits, or will sit, is if you boil it first, then add the sugar. So we'll get this up to a rolling boil. And then once we are at a rolling boil, we will add all of the sugar. Doesn't this look so pretty though? If you've never tried pepper jelly, it's awesome, especially on like cream cheese and crackers, or like I said, just to bring with you to the holidays or gift to people. It just looks so festive. I can't wait to show you guys what it looks like in the jar whenever it's done. Okay, so as you can see, we are at a boil, and now I'm going to start adding in the sugar. We need 5 cups of sugar, and then we are going to return this back to a boil. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And start mixing that in really good. Now, the sugar is going to make this come down from a boil to not very hot at all. So anytime you put sugar into something, it's going to reduce the heat by a lot. So now we need to let all the sugar dissolve and get this back up to a rolling boil, one that cannot be stirred through. So a rolling boil, you're going to hear a lot of canners mention that. It just means a boil that if you take your spoon and do this, it is still boiling. It doesn't stop boiling just because you move the contents in the pot. So we're going to stir this really good and get it back up to a rolling boil. Now you don't want to walk away from this now that the sugar's in it, because it can burn very, very easily. So keep an eye on it and keep stirring every now and again. Okay, so after you let that boil for 1 minute, go ahead and get it off your stove, and we are going to start filling up our jars. Now we need to leave 1/4 of an inch headspace, and I am going to use these little jelly jars, and then I just have one of these that I'm going to go ahead and fill up as well. So I'm going to start getting these ladled in here. This recipe says that it makes about 6 of these jelly jars, and I went ahead and just grabbed out 7 just in case. Make sure you're scooping from the bottom of the pot so that you can get a good mix of all the peppers as well. Sometimes they like to kind of sink to the bottom. Okay, so before I grab any of the other ones out, I'm going to go ahead and get lids and rings on these. And make sure you scrub these really good. Anytime you're using sugary substances, you really want to go the extra step and make sure that none of that is on this rim so that you get a good seal. Remember, just fingertip tight. How beautiful is that? And I don't typically use this size of jar, but I thought it would be kind of cute, especially for a gift, to just give to somebody to try it, maybe that hasn't tried pepper jelly or isn't a big fan of it. So I figured, why not use up one of the smaller jars that I had. Okay, so there is just a little bit left in my pot still, but it's not enough to fill one of these up. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the rest of this in a jar and put it in the fridge whenever it cools down. And that will be for us to enjoy throughout the week. So pretty close, but not quite. So whenever you're canning, you cannot process anything that doesn't fill up the jar to the recommended headspace. So if you ever have leftovers, just either put them in the fridge or, you know, give them to somebody or enjoy them at the time. And then you have something that you can just, you know, use throughout the week. And another thing to be mindful of is if you put a band on this, since the jar is hot and this is hot, it could seal. So just go ahead and leave this out to cool first and then try to put your lid and your band on it, because the heat in these jars can cause your bands to, or the heat in these jars can cause your lids to seal if you put them on too soon. So I just let this sit here, cool down completely, and then I will get a lid on it and stick it in the refrigerator. So after all of your jars are in the canner, I'm going to go ahead and get some water in this. Make sure you leave 1 inch to 1.5 inches of water over your jars so that they're completely covered. And then the recipe that I'm following says to process them for 5 minutes. I've never heard of such a thing. Usually the jams and jellies in the jelly jars is 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and process these for 10 minutes at a rolling boil. So if you're new to canning, your processing time starts when your water is at a rolling boil. As soon as my water hits a rolling boil, I will start the timer for 10 minutes. The processing time does not start whenever you put these jars in the water. It starts at a rolling boil. So as soon as these are processed, I will get them out of the canner and meet you back. So it is officially the next day after we got the pepper jelly done. And the craziest thing happened to me yesterday, you guys. I went ahead and got the dehydrator going for our chili crisp, got the pepper jelly out of the water bath canner, and then started to notice that I was breaking out in hives really bad. So I went out to the emergency room because I was starting to have difficulties breathing. And I went into like anaphylaxis a year ago with my cephalexin reaction that I had. Now, I've never been allergic to cephalexin, but a year ago I had a really, really severe allergic reaction to it. So kind of the same thing was starting yesterday. So I had to go out to the emergency room. I was actually there for about 3 hours. And I got a bunch of Benadryl, a bunch of steroids. It was kind of like a scary experience because, again, I was having really bad difficulty breathing. So I don't know. Like I said, I've never been allergic to anything in my entire life. And just out of nowhere the past year, I keep getting crazy allergic reactions. So I don't know what caused it yesterday. I'm probably going to have an allergy panel done to kind of determine that. But today I'm home. I'm still kind of broken out in hives. So I have super comfy clothes on. And I'm just going to try to get done what I can and not overdo it. So I am going to go ahead and finish up the chili crisp with you guys. Now, all of these are dehydrated. So we have our hot peppers, our onions, and then on the second tray, we have the garlic and onions. So all of this is ready to go. And instead of putting this in like a food processor and blitzing it up like I was originally going to do, I think I'm just going to put it down on a cutting board and kind of chop it. Because everything's pretty dry, it'll be easy to just chop it up like that. I don't really want to take any chances of that like hitting me in the face from blitzing it just because of yesterday and all the things that went on. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of this chopped up, and then we will get it in a pan with some oil. We'll probably cook it for just a little bit to really let the flavors come out of the stuff that we're adding. And then we'll let it cool and we'll get it up in a jar. Okay guys, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this on a medium, and I'm going to start adding the olive oil and other seasonings. Now I don't need this to like get super, super hot or anything by any means, just a little bit of enough to kind of marry those flavors together. And you do want to use quite a bit of olive oil because, you know, you'll be using little bits of this at a time. So make sure you use enough. So after adding the olive oil, I just went ahead and added some extra garlic salt and paprika to give it that traditional red color that you would usually see with a chili crisp. And then I just went ahead and gave it a good stir and left it on the stove to cook and heat up for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then I just started taking all of my bands off of my pepper jelly and getting all of these labeled. You guys, these turned out so beautiful, and I can't wait to gift them for Christmas gifts and holiday gifts. I know my family is really going to love them. Just remember, anytime you're canning stuff that is super sugary or sticky, really go that extra mile. Clean your jars off, run them under the sink if you have to, use soap, whatever you got to do. You definitely don't want to leave them on your shelves super gooey or sticky, you know. So I'm just getting all of these finished with the labels and setting them to the side, and then I will get them put in my pantry, and this canning project is done. And then this is what the chili crisp is looking like after about 10 minutes of just simmering away. I'm so incredibly thrilled with how this turned out, how it looks, and how it tastes. You guys, you definitely have to give this a try. It turned out absolutely phenomenal. So then I just went ahead and got it jarred up and we'll be storing it in my cabinet. I just wanted to say thanks so much for watching, guys. I truthfully and honestly appreciate it. I hope you guys all have a fantastic week, and I will see you in the next video.